Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of This Is Your Captain Speaking. Super happy to have somebody on today that I've known for a couple of years, actually. Alex Olley, who's the founder and chief revenue officer over at Reachdesk. Uh, Reachdesk is a direct mail platform, so and I think one of your slogans is making experiences that matter. I hope that's you and not one of your competitors, right? But
Nearly, delivering moments that matter. But
there
yeah,
we
we
got
call it that
delivering
one.
moments that matter. Delivering moments that matter. So myself and Alex actually got to know each other probably 3 or 4 years ago when he was actually pitching Reachdesk to me at another organization. I love the platform. I love direct mail. I think it's an amazing channel that's completely underutilized. But maybe we'll dig into that in a little bit. But Alex, welcome and tell us a little bit about what Reachdesk do.
Oh, mate. Well, firstly, thank you for having me. Always love doing stuff with you, Andy. Look, a bit about Reachdesk. You kind of already hit the nail on the head. We deliver moments that matter. What that means is we essentially have a platform that you can send digital gifts, physical gifts, swag, direct mail, anything that think about the offline experience that you can deliver to people, both for like your actual people, but also your customers and your prospects. We essentially allow you to scale that globally. So we're the only platform that actually allows you to do those things, but also guarantee ROI. So it's all about tracking the uplift that this channel can have.
Let's get into that tracking a little bit, right? So you guys are obviously integrated them with all the major marketing automation platforms, correct?
Yep. Yeah. So where this started really, perhaps we'll go there really, is back in the day, I was doing a lot of direct mail, a lot of gifting, mainly for like top of funnel. So trying to break into like key decision makers. And it was part of our account-based strategy. So we were using this as something that would be used for, let's say, our top 100 accounts. And the thing that we found was we couldn't track the ROI. So I was spending probably like 10 grand a month. This is quite a small business, on sending gifts and things to like key accounts. And our marketing director came to me saying, I need to shut this down. I don't know what the effect is. You guys are spending loads of marketing budget, but I don't know how it's influencing pipeline, opportunities, that kind of thing. That's kind of where Reachdesk was born. We knew we needed to integrate within tools like Salesforce and HubSpot and Marketo, not just so that you can scale and automate it, but really importantly, so you can actually measure the ROI. So we connect the offline channel to your CRM so that you can scale it, make it easy. But really importantly, you can actually measure the impact. If I'm sending this to a CMO in a prospect account that costs $50, for example, what's that actually doing? Is it creating pipeline? Is it accelerating our deals forward? So we actually help businesses measure that so they can justify the ROI.
Interesting. Okay, so talking about like top of funnel versus like deeper in the funnel, as you just mentioned there. So you're talking about, is this creating a conversation versus is it creating pipeline? Is it helping accelerate pipeline to close? Like within Reachdesk, do you have different recommendations for different types of gifts that you would give for each of those different levels of the funnel?
Yeah, so it's actually got really exciting for us recently because we've had all that Salesforce data, which our customers give us that permission to read. We've essentially got millions and millions of like direct mail and gift sends. So what we did is we actually cross-referenced that against people's pipelines. And we started to see where a business is sending to their prospects, their customers. So I think about customer journey as I think the best marketers do, from like that first touch point all the way to the point at which perhaps customers think about renewing. And what we started seeing is businesses were using gifting and direct mail across the entire life cycle. And so what we did is we actually allowed, we could get all that data and see the success rates of it. We've actually built a new product called Playbooks, and it allows our customers to go in and say, what are you trying to achieve? So let's give you an example. It might be, I'm trying to book more meetings. Okay, so you click that, it tells you the types of gifts in which region with what messaging to be able to send to a prospect at that stage. But the same can apply to, let's say, a CSM. Let's say there is a renewal or QBR coming up. You want key execs to be attending that meeting so that you get buy-in, so that the renewal is not at risk. And so we have playbooks for that too. So you can now think about gifting through the entire life cycle, or funnel, as maybe people might want to call it in a more traditional term. I actually don't like funnel that much. And you can start to identify what I call these moments that matter. And these could be hyper-personalized moments. They could be business moments, such as a renewal. And now you can use that data to actually inform your strategy before what businesses were doing is they were kind of just spraying and praying. Let's do a big campaign. Let's send to like 500 customers at one point, but the timing was usually off and the messaging was wrong. So we've solved that now.
That's super interesting. Are those playbooks currently available, like that product that you mentioned, or is it still in development?
We've literally just released it.
Nice, very nice. And so that's super interesting that you're able to give the messaging plus the type of gift that's working in specific regions. That's class. That's
yeah,
really...
and so this has been a big problem for businesses, particularly globally. So corporate gifting and sending gifts to particularly prospects has been huge in the US for a long time. I think we're like 4 or 5 years behind in Europe. So that's a lot of that's about scale and like just helping the workflow become a lot easier. Where it gets messy is in particularly Europe, with so many different currencies, different cultures. For example, people don't eat things like cupcakes as much in Germany, for example. We love them in the UK. And so those nuances are so critical. We found that by taking all this data and building these playbooks, we can actually help people localize their strategy a lot more. I think that's the game changer.
That's a massive game changer. I mean, look, I think as well, for me personally, having been a massive advocate of direct mail, like I love direct mail. Like we've been speaking about direct mail for years, you and me, Alex, and I think it's a really underutilized channel, specific, like very much so in Europe. I think it's gotten better, but something that pains me a lot about direct mail is bad direct mail, right? So like I feel like there's a lot of people doing it nowadays, but there are very few people that are doing it very well, right? And you can see it even with people that are putting stuff up on LinkedIn, like execs that are receiving direct mail pieces and just like commenting, like putting a picture up of a vendor. For example, I have one specific vendor in mind. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but it was I'll tell you offline, but it was a specific marketing cloud platform in the B2C space. So providing a marketing cloud for B2C businesses. And they had sent out a box out to a specific prospect from a brand, right? And somebody on the CRM team. And that person put something up on LinkedIn, a picture of that box, which also had the vendor's name, logo, and everything on it, and was given out absolute shit about the fact that there was so much plastic junk in here and why are you sending me this, right? So like that's just an example of, because it was just like absolute junk, right? That was just thrown into a box and just covered up in plastic with loads of logos all over it, and people were just like, oh, this is definitely going to work, right? So like I think, like, are you seeing the same thing in terms of people that are actually running direct mail, that it's like there's people that are, very few people that are doing it well, and out of the majority that are doing it, they're not doing a very good job of it.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. We have a lot of customers who come to us, and actually very few of them have an actual strategy. So what we're working on at the moment is like really understanding the maturity. It's a very immature category that we're in. It's very early stage. Like no one in this category has been around for more than like 5 years. So it's really, really early days. And what we've learned is businesses need help there. Now, where I think this stems from, I think it comes at like board level decisions or exec level decisions of people that haven't done this as a discipline before. And they think by adding a channel, they're going to get an uplift. Which is dangerous. Like we want to be more multi-channel, more omni-channel as B2B companies grow. But I think people think of this as a missile. They think we can send something and it will get a response. But if done badly, actually, it's going to have the adverse effect. You could, as you quite rightly mentioned in your example there, businesses are going to get really negative PR for sending stuff like stress balls and loads of plastic in the post. And that's a really dangerous game. So the things that we think about to like do it really well, there are just a couple of basic foundations. One, think sustainably, right? You should be sending something that ideally someone can use multiple times or share it. People don't want stress balls or pens or more notepads. It doesn't work. We don't need them. Just don't do it really, unless it's like a customer who's asked for something like that. But then you can actually put the control in their hands and get them to order what they want. But the sustainability piece is critical, and we're seeing more and more businesses who are actually asking us in their evaluations, like, what are your sustainable initiatives as a company? Because that's actually becoming more front and center. So I think that's a trend that we're seeing is starting to happen. One of my biggest bugbears when it comes to this channel is what I call the holdback. For many people watching or listening, they might have had experienced this, but the workflow could go something like this. Hey, Andy, really want to book some of your time, if you attend the meeting, I'll send you a $200 Amazon gift card after the meeting. Right. And I get this a lot, and it still baffles me as to why businesses think this is a good idea. One, it creates a really bad first point of contact with your prospect, because you're essentially bribing them. And what we've seen is a lot of businesses actually, well, people will actually take the meeting, by the way, and take the gift card, but then it doesn't turn into business. So you're actually burning cash, you're creating a really negative experience. The thing that you can do differently is give first. Like, just give and don't expect anything in return. And the right people will reciprocate. It's one small change that can make a massive difference to how you approach this channel. And then critically, it's just like with any good marketing, it's all about the messaging, the context, and the context and the content behind it. Businesses think that, again, sending gifts or direct mail will just work. It's actually all about the context that surrounds it. If you think of the example of putting this in an SDR's hands, you don't want your SDRs just to be sending stuff left, right, and center. You still got to warm your prospect up. You'll look for engagement, and then that's the critical point on which you should be sending something. You want to build it into your workflow. Don't treat like emails, phone calls separately from gifting. You actually want to fuse the two together, and we've got a lot of content that can help businesses do that. So those are my big three things. It's about sustainability. It's all about reciprocity. It's about what I call the better together strategy. Integrate this into your workflow and actually make sure they all complement each other.
Yeah, I think that's really important to have that as part of your cadence, right? You don't just fling out a direct mail as a once-off type of thing, and that's like a standalone activity, right? I think, yeah, as you mentioned, having it as part of the SDRs or the salesperson's workflow is definitely going to be going to have a much better impact and outcome, right? I just wanted to ask you, you may not know this, but do you know what your most popular gift is?
We do, actually. So, I mean, one of the most popular ones is actually just sending people coffee. So coffee gift cards are like one of the top ones. But we produce a quarterly report on this, so we can take all that data and we can see not just like what's the most popular in terms of being sent, but we can see things like what's the most redeemable one, which one helps you convert into the most pipeline. But look at our state of gifting report, and that gives you all the information you need about what you should actually be sending. My mind was blown by some of this. I was like, really? Does that work? And I'll give you an example. One of the key strategies we see for like customer success teams is like sending what we call ROI champagne. So you actually send a bottle of champagne to the decision maker with the ROI engraved on the bottle of like the return that you've delivered for that customer. So if it's revenue, it's time saved, it could be anything. Whatever your value proposition is, you can actually send that out. And that's like something that is key to driving renewals. Didn't know that.
I've seen those floating around on LinkedIn. All right, it's really, really interesting. Like I think for direct mail, like personally, the only time the direct mails have worked for me is when you're getting creative. Like those types of ideas that you have there about engraving the champagne bottle with the ROI in it. Like that's a super creative idea. Like that's an out of the box idea. It's just like, and they're the things that stand out, right? You don't want to be sending junk. Like even with Marmind, for this particular the company that we're dealing with here, we did an interesting enough mailer recently whereby I wanted to have something that was to do with budgeting, because it's one of the core pieces of the platform, right? Planning and budgeting. And I knew that like this time of the year is a time when people are really focusing on for next year budgets, right? And what's something that we could maybe send out in the post that's got something to do with budgeting, right? And maybe something that will be sticking around on people's desks and different things. I was like, calculators. Nobody uses calculators anymore, right? So we came up with a campaign. It was a relatively cheap campaign, good messaging, solid messaging, and engraved calculators with our logo plus some messaging on it. And people like the response has been unbelievable. It's like, oh, I haven't had a calculator on my desk in years. This is amazing, And I'm like, oh, great, We've managed to book meetings off the back of it. Pipeline has been opened up and it was really just sitting down like with a couple of us, just brainstorming ideas and being like, okay, like how can we do something creative here? And that to me is always the best way to go with direct mail. Like, don't just send something like out for the sake of sending something out. Like, you're not going to have a good result from that.
Yeah, but so the personalization piece there is critical. It's funny, when you said budgeting, the first thing that sprung to my mind was calculators for some reason. The fact you're putting their name on is that's something that we've seen is taking things to the next level. I've got on calls with people where I've just sent them, I don't know, they've told me that they like tequila, for example. I've sent them a bottle of Casamigos tequila, but with their name engraved on it. And I've got on calls with customers 2 years later, they still haven't drunk that bottle, but it's on their, like, behind their desk, and they love to show people. It's like, hey, see this? I've got a bottle of tequila with my name on it.
Yeah.
The long-lasting impression that creates, and the actual, it's mind-blowing how big of a connection you can build with businesses, and the people within those businesses is huge. But because it's not done as extensively, you should be using this in your arsenal now. I think 10 years time, everyone's going to be doing this, and that's when we've got to think about something new. But do it now and do it right. I think you could have some serious results.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look, Alex, we're coming up on time here. So like, I really appreciate you spending a couple of minutes with me today discussing all this. And I'm a massive advocate of direct mail, and also Reachdesk, huge fan of Reachdesk. I think the platform is amazing. Just to see it from the very beginning, more or less, when we first started talking, I think Reachdesk was you. And now
it was me and our co-founders just selling from our bedrooms. I think we tried to make ourselves look bigger than we were at the time.
Yeah, you did well at that, actually. You did well. And yeah, but how many people are you now?
We're close to 300 people now. So we've gone from 0 to 300 people in like 3 years. It's been pretty astronomical growth. If you told me back then when we met where we'd be today, I would have been happy. I think I would have been pretty happy.
Absolutely. I'd say it's been a wild ride as well. So
yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, good. Well, hey, look, Alex, thank you again for spending the time with me today. I really appreciate it. And I wish you guys over at Reachdesk all the best, and close out the year solid. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon, mate.
All right, mate. Look, always a pleasure. And thank you always for your support for what we've been building here.
Sure. Cheers, Alex.
Cheers,
guys, this has been another episode of This Is Your Captain Speaking. Tune in again next week for more awesome content. Cheers.